you may not be that familiar with timepieces. But what JJLeCoq is, it is a manufacturer brand Swiss watch. Now, what manufacturer means is that all of the movement inside of this timepiece and all of their timepieces are handmade in-house. A lot of your big timepiece manufacturers that you're probably familiar with, Omega. Now, Omega started manufacturing their own movements recently, but Tag Heuer
alongside the Swiss.
So Clive Watch Wrangler Brian, didn't you promise Tanzio on Sorry that Tim would autograph a poster to his biggest fan? I actually did promise that you would autograph a poster for ArchieLuxury and we would send it to him.
If you have a poster of me, that's the first I've heard of it.
Yeah, so no.
Is that a thing?
So, well, it's going to be a thing because we're going to have a poster made of you, and you're going to need to autograph it to ArchieLuxury because I promised that we would send one out.
I can do, but do we ship internationally?
Well, we will.
Okay. We will. That's the first international gift we've ever given away. Congrats, Archie.
Good afternoon, folks. I ran a little bit of a shorter intro this time. I think last time I ran the longer intros, a bunch of people didn't like it, but we are going to be talking watches here with me, not ArchieLuxury. I'm your host, Tan. Obviously anybody else who wants to join in, we're going to be obviously engaging with the chat, talking watches, talk about anything you guys want to talk about related to watches today. We do have Geezer in the chat who did see the intro who says JJLeCoq. Yeah, I actually recorded that video back in the day when I caught Irish Guy with the whole JJLeCoq thing, and it was obviously one of my favorite videos. So that's actually one of my screenshotted videos from back in the day. But Geezer, how's it going? 5205R is beautiful. I agree. I love that watch. And we got Mr. Jonathan Quill Higgins who says hello and good evening from Germany. Well, hello, Jonathan. Hopefully you're well and hopefully you're having a good evening. And yeah, no, we're just going to kind of, Jonathan and I were talking before the show and he's like, is there any topics? And I'm like, honestly, I don't ever really come with a ton of topics because we often get sidetracked in terms of the talk with the chat and everything else. And yeah, just probably ramble on a bit about, just what I'm excited about over the next couple of weeks and what you guys are excited about. And yeah, just had some time this afternoon. So I figured I'd hop on, talk some watches with anybody who wants to join. I've obviously sent the link out to a couple of parties. I will drop it in the chat for anybody who does want to join me and talk some watches this afternoon. We got Big George NY in the house. Says, hey, Mr. 5212. Hey, Big George NY. How you doing? Good to see you. And yeah, no, just today, like I said, we're just going to engage with the chat, talk about anything you guys want to talk about watches. If Dis is around and wants to talk some Seikos with me, I'm more than happy to do that as well. We got a question here from Jonathan Quayle Higgins III, who's asking, Tan, do you know that Dufour guy that I've heard about? Is that better than Tissot? Yes, Mr. Higgins is referring to, for those that didn't see ArchieLuxury live stream last night, there was, I think there was a question from Cosmic, one of the punchers in the chat, who had, I think he had super chatted saying, Dufour recognizes Lange as having some of the best finishing and better finishing than the Swiss. And Archie was going on his ramble about how he doesn't really particularly like Philippe Dufour. And obviously I got into it around my views of Philippe Dufour, and one of the watches I really do feel is one of the absolute best watches ever created is the Philippe Dufour Simplicity. And I'll see if I can pull up a good movement picture of the Simplicity here, just to kind of highlight what we were talking about here with Mr. Higgins. Let me see if I can get a good picture. It's always a bit of a struggle to find a good picture, but here we go. Here's a good picture. Zoom in a bit for you guys here on the Philippe Dufour Simplicity. So obviously one of my favorite watches of all time, and I guess like it was funny to hear Mike the Snake kind of describe the movement and all that jazz yesterday, and I think Bear was asking him like, "Are you trolling us?" If I zoom in a bit, more on the movement, I mean, you can see this hand finish anglage is just absolutely beautiful. Like it to me, I see this finishing on this watch, and I just, it's a work of art. And you hear a lot about internal angles, which I'm kind of highlighting here, and here as well. And then you can even see even the point where you come up to an external angle, you could call it here and here. I mean, just the hand finishing on the anglage in this piece is definitely a step above. And so when Jonathan's talking to us about Philippe Dufour, he's kind of trolling us a bit here, where he says, "Is it better than Tissot?" And you look, for me, it is. For other people, they may like Tissot a bit better. Um, we got Geezer with the question: "What is the feature you like most about the 5212A?" That is a really good question. Honestly, the dial is very polarizing to a lot of folks. When I first saw it in online and just on the website and stuff, I was worried that it could seem a bit cartoonish, but when I saw it in person, the opaline dial with the text, the handwritten text, is one of my favorite, if not favorite, piece about the watch. But I really feel the layout is it might look busy, when you kind of look at it, or you're just kind of looking at it for the first time. But when you actually use the piece, it's definitely quite usable. It's become my work watch, so for me, it's been a watch I've been wearing pretty much every day as much as I can. Very usable, obviously stainless steel, 40 millimeters. So very, very usable for me. Super light, obviously being steel. And yeah, but I do obviously like the charm of the handwritten script. I think it's got a great story. And Keezer, if you don't know the story, a designer was obviously designing the piece and was, handwriting the days of the months, and sorry, he was handwriting the months and the week numbers and stuff on the dial. And when he presented it to Thierry Stern, the intent was not to actually use handwritten script. It was to use a regular typography that you'd find on, any standard Patek. But Terry Stern, thought, hey, this reminded Terry Stern of what he called a school calendar, and just the handwritten parts of a school calendar of, I guess, in his youth. And he, took a bit of a bet to say, you know what, we're actually going to go with this. So I like the story about it as well, Geezer. To me, it's very unique. It gives a bit of a vintage vibe. So when I actually asked my wife what she liked about the piece, or what the piece, like, what I guess her thoughts were of the piece, not even like, but what her thoughts were. And she said, it just gives me a bit of a old fashioned vintage vibe. And I'm like, that's exactly probably what it's going for. So bit of a mission accomplished for somebody who's not into watches. So that hopefully is a long winded answer to your question. Jonathan Quill Higgins says that watch is too expensive for me at 30K. Well, Jonathan, you're going to have to dig into the savings. You're going to have to sell some pieces. You're going to have to consolidate, I think, for yourself to actually get into this kind of a piece. To me, this piece is perfection. And if you can ever get your hands on one of them, I would highly recommend doing it. Geezer asks, do you like the FP Journe Chronomètre Bleu? So yeah, look, the Chronomètre Bleu, I have a good story about this. So back in must have been 2018, I was live streaming with Archie and Don Haynes actually at the time, and Don Haynes had a connection at Manfredi Jewelers in the United States to actually get a Chronomètre Bleu, and I'd shown interest in that piece and wanting that piece, and so he connected me with Manfredi, and they were like, yeah, we can get it for you. It's going to take about a year, and being the impatient fuck that I am, did not want to wait the year to buy this watch for retail. And so it was a piece I was seeking, Geezer, at a time when it wasn't even like, I mean, was it sought after? Sure, but like the hype was nowhere near what it is today, right? Like just like the Nautilus when I bought it in 2016, it was a very highly sought after piece. It was selling above retail, and I'm talking about like, if retail was 24, it was selling for 26 and a half. So yeah, no, it was definitely a piece I was looking at in the past, and I do like the tantalum case. I love the blue dial. It would have been my entry point into buying a Journe, and it's honestly probably one of the Journes that I still would consider purchasing. I do like the Havana in the Chronomet Souverain lineup. I think a lot of his other complications and remontoirs and stuff like that may be a bit outside my budget, but for me, the Chronomet Blue has always been a great piece. I do like tantalum. I know it's not a metal that everybody's really into, but for me, tantalum, you don't see it in a lot of pieces, right? AP did tantalum cases in their Royal Oaks back in the day. You don't see it today, and FP Journe doing a tantalum case is pretty cool. So yeah, no, for me, definitely a piece that I do like, and I would purchase if the prices obviously came down to reality, because they're still obviously a little bit too pricey for what I'd like to get. Hey Tommy, how's it going? Good to see you. Tan can't hear. I'm about to get in the restaurant, but have a great stream. Thank you, Tommy. And MCM says to Higgins, HELOC, HELOC, HELOC. Higgins, if you're not buying, pieces, you should HELOC and get a home equity line of credit and get yourself a new wristwatch like the Simplicity. Now, Jonathan, I know you're probably eating dinner. I'm gonna wait a bit to talk about the Swiss's answer to the data graph, so I won't get into that. But I may go back into talking a bit about Patek Philippe, maybe go through the collection. So this is the 5205R, which is rose gold annual calendar with the moon phase. Not my favorite iteration of an annual calendar. I do believe that, like, from an annual calendar perspective, I do feel it's one of the most usable complications out there. I had the 5035 annual calendar, which is the original annual calendar produced by Patek, and yeah, I loved it. Like, it was an amazing piece, and just the convenience of the annual calendar at the price point of being way less than a perpetual calendar really did appeal to me. The 5035, I will say, was a tad small, and I'll pull up a picture of the 5035 that I had, if I can find it. 5035 slate gray dial. Yeah, I'll show you guys what I had and what it looked like. Yeah, this should be all right. So I had a slate gray dial, and if you see here on the screen, the 5035 layout was a bit different than some of the annual calendars you see today, where you have the days here in one of the indicators, one of the sub-registers, you have the month. And interestingly enough, this is actually very similar, if not the same, as the one I had, where I had an Italian dial on the 5035. We do have a guest here, Mr. Higgins. How is it going?
Hey, good evening. Everything
evening.
good? How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm doing all right. I know that it's a bit short notice, Jonathan. I apologize for that.
No, no need to apologize. Do whenever you want that. I have to apologize in advance. Dinner is almost ready, but I thought I'm joining you. Uh, in my experience, it's always nicer to do that show with somebody to talk to than doing an entire solo thing.
Yeah, look, I don't mind. I could do solo. I could do, if you have to eat and you want to eat, feel free and you can hop on a little late. It's up to you. But yeah, for me, yeah, just honestly connecting with the chat, talking a bit about Patek Philippe's, obviously, to start off, and then we're going to get into a topic that you and I were talking about a little earlier. But I was showing the annual calendar. This was actually the same annual calendar that I had. I had an Italian dial, month sub register, day sub register, and then you have the 24-hour indicator, which tells you essentially when you should set the watch and when you shouldn't set the watch. And really cool piece, just a tad small. It was a 37 millimeter, but it actually fit like a 36. And but yeah, like, I wasn't unhappy with that. I did really enjoy this piece, and yeah, Archie used to hate on it, by the way, Jonathan, because it had an Italian dial. He couldn't get over the
Okay.
fact that it had an Italian dial, and to me, I liked the charm of that, because I was like, well, there's probably not a lot of them that have an Italian dial. So
That is true, but Archie had then the same watch in yellow gold, didn't he?
yeah, his was yellow gold. He originally had it in the Archie 5, and then he sold it, and then he bought the same watch back. Um,
Mm.
and yeah, no, he always talks about what he calls the three eyes, which is the sub registers he's referring to. And for him, he's always wanted a complication Patek that had the three eyes. He couldn't really afford a perpetual calendar, so his next best thing was the annual, and the 5035 was his choice of pieces in the Patek complications. But it's funny because he never, like, he always talks about the world time. That's his favorite complication piece he's ever owned. And I always kind of beat him up on that. I'm like, why not the annual calendar? Like, I find it such a more usable complication than the world time.
Yeah, I agree. I understand that he has an emotional connection to the world timer. But my advice would also be to go annual calendar, and that 5396 that we've been discussing is just such a beautiful piece.
Absolutely. We've got a couple of comments in the chat, so I'll just catch up on them here. Geezer says, "What is Hondane's up to these days? Haven't seen that dude in a while." Actually, Don logged on to the ArchieLuxury live stream. I don't say about a week ago, Geezer.
Yeah,
So
I think a week ago he was there for half an hour or something.
Yeah, so he's still around. He's on the list for a Submariner 41 mil date. He does have a 3861 Speedmaster, so Don's good. He's just doing his thing. Saad is asking, what do you think about Marcelo Dubuis and Dodger Dufour? We'll get into that today because we got Higgins.
Oh my God. Okay.
Big Meech says the stream is more dead than Archie's YouTube career. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. The stream also has more knowledge between the two of us than Archie's entire career itself. So
come on, let's not be.
I'll throw that out. No, I challenge Archie all the time. He knows I've been challenging him since I met him on things. We got Laura Connor in the chat. Hey, Laura Connor, nice to see you. Russell 996. Good evening, Jonathan. I see a.
Hopefully, he says good evening to you as well.
Well, it's good afternoon for me.
Manners.
I see a nice Khaleesi dial in his avatar. So
yeah, that's the only watch that he has, and he's annoying the hell out.
The only watch is all good. We got our friend Cosmic who led the charge yesterday in the Dufour and creator commentary. Says, Higgins, thanks for educating Archie on the minute repeater. He was not impressed. Can you get me up to speed with that? I didn't catch up on that. Can you get me up to speed on that, please?
I tried to educate him a little bit about creator, but that didn't go well, I must say. Archie didn't listen. Dare I say, he didn't understand. So it was a fruitless effort, I would say. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, no, I was muted. Fruitless effort. I kind of tried to explain this to you a little earlier. Was like, Archie, a lot of what he's interested in is obviously what he's experienced over his, obviously multiple decades of collecting, many more than myself, specifically. And I think when you get into like brands that are something he's not familiar with and or not interested, because he does like branding, right? He really does buy into a lot of the marketing as well. And let me put this up on the screen for you here. What do we have here, Jonathan? What is on the screen?
So you brought an interesting point of discussion, the different languages on the dials.
Mm-hmm.
And when I purchased this, my first attempt was a watch from Spain, and it had the month and the days of the week in Spanish.
Yep.
And that deal fell through. And now I got it in English. I know that there is also a German variant. Not sure which I like more, but I'm a little bit in Archie's camp. I couldn't really love an Italian dial or a Spanish dial because I don't speak the language.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I speak French fluently, and I can kind of, make up, obviously, and understand which days of the week they are and which months of the week they are, which months of the year they are. Like, it's not too hard. MCM says AC3 has been mad at the Italians ever since their suit stopped fitting him. Yeah, I think that is absolutely right.
But can I say two words about Cosmic, because I wanted to thank him for asking that question. When I heard it the first time, I thought that it was about the creator Archie, which I really like. And then later I realized then from the conversation that it was about the minute repeater. I've seen the minute repeater. I've also seen that sonary watch that creator makes, and I was digging a little bit into the topic. and I found out so many beautiful things. Particularly, my favorite is the sonary. It's not the minute repeater. The sonary is only half of the price of the minute repeater, and the sonary has that bell. And I'm going to feature the sonnery on the next Swiss and John show because the sound of the bell, if you want to, I can send you a link of a video, YouTube video, and the sound is striking. I must listen to this watch in real life. Do you want me to send the link?
Yeah, you could try sending the link. I don't know how well it's going to play on YouTube, whether it's going to come through for the viewers or not.
Yeah.
I did.
I may be out because I have to go. No, I'm using a different device. Okay, I'll
Yeah,
do that.
either if you want to text it to me or if you want to just put it in the private chat, I could try pulling it up. I did pull up the Creator IHE2 here on the screen. Obviously, it's not the same watch that Cosmic was talking about necessarily, where he was talking about the minute repeater, but we did, I did want to bring up, and Jonathan, look, I want to also bring up your Grand Seiko as well in terms of, because the movement of your Grand Seiko is similar to the IHE2's movement, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And we'll highlight kind of an area here of of the two plates between them, and you can kind of see anglage here in the two call it half crescent sections here, which is a bit different than your piece. Now, if you don't mind, can you give me your reference of, obviously I'm bad with Grand Seiko references.
What do you mean? My Grand Seiko?
Yes,
You mean?
yes.
That is SBGZ003.
003. Okay, so I'm gonna pull that up here. Because I kind of wanted to show, and you know what, maybe this article has, I think it shows the difference between the IHE2's movement and the movement in your Grand Seiko, because this has been a topic. So, well, here we can see the original IHE's finishing here. This is the IHE1 Grand Seiko, obviously,
Yeah, that is a
internal.
very good article, by the way.
Yep.
But Tanzil, can I help you a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Second.
This was the IHE2 movement. I was just showing you guys.
Watch on the screen.
Oh yes, even better. We got live comparison. I love it. It may not be as easy to see the movements, but maybe, so you own both. Okay, so you own
Yes.
the IHE2 and you own the Grand Seiko.
Yes.
Why don't you kind of tell us the differences and what you appreciate? One of them looks like it's not even, the stickers haven't even been removed on one.
Yeah, one still has the stickers on, and the Aichi I'm thinking about selling, so that is still having the stickers on. The other one is the Grand Seiko that I'm wearing quite often. So the difference in both movements is, one second, let me get a pen. So the first thing is here the power reserve. The Aichi has a very long hand, while the Grand Seiko here has a very short hand with a circular dial.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the cutout and the finishing of the bell flower is a little bit different. Also, the size.
Mm-hmm.
And what is really important is here that internal angle.
And I'll show this in a better photo once we're done. But you're kind of describing, because obviously
and the internal angle is not here
on the IHE2. Okay, yeah. So
but the construction, the position of the screws, the position of the bearings and everything is quite similar. But those are the main differences. Just before we're putting that away, I just wanted to show you the beautiful dial of the HE2.
Mm-hmm.
That is Japanese porcelain.
Yep.
Very deep, and everything that you see in white is hand painted, including the Cradle logo and that small writing that you can see here on the bottom. So that is a true work of art. You can also see a kind of halo ring here outside. So the color is getting brighter here and also towards the center, where the lacquer on the porcelain is getting thinner.
Awesome. Let me just pull back up the Aichi 2. So just for everybody who obviously couldn't see it, in the off of Jonathan's camera, but you can see here kind of the two, and I'll just highlight them here.
Yeah,
Um,
it's dark here, so I have to use artificial light. I apologize.
yeah, so,
During the day, it would be better.
So you got these two kind of half moon portions of the plates, which are hand finished, but you'll see the bit of the difference. That's the Aichi 2,
Yeah.
and you'll see
By
now.
the way, the inspiration of what they said at the beginning, that crack between those two massive bridges is meant to be a floating river. Some people say it is the stem of the bellflower, but I see it as a floating river. And you can see those two bearings on the bottom. Those are called frog's eyes.
Yep. They, it's interesting how they decided to finish this movement differently than the Aichi 2. And when we talked about Grand Seiko, obviously you've been triggered about Grand Seiko over the last couple of days from Timely and obviously GMT giving you a bit of fisting from the Grand Seiko portion. Usually when we talk about Grand Seiko on this show, and I see it on a lot of shows, is we're really thinking of Grand Seiko on their lower end of the market, and I wouldn't say it's low end, but just more their entry pieces or more popular pieces on that end of the spectrum. Think of like, you obviously got some of the high end quartz pieces to their GMT pieces to the birch pieces, and everything else. These pieces, like your Grand Seiko, and your watch is in platinum, right? It's not white gold.
Yes, both are in platinum. Yes.
Both are in platinum. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a spectrum that's it's a collector that's looking for something that truly has artwork in the movement finishing, and they're seeking a different type of finishing, I would say, right? Different than the Swiss, different than the Germans. And this is a
Yeah.
good question for you, Jonathan. I mean, you own Swiss, high-end pieces, you own German high-end pieces, and you obviously own Japanese high-end pieces. Describe, if from your perspective, owning all those watches, how different the finishing philosophy may be between three different countries.
So I must admit that I don't know everything about those micro artist studio watches. I know, so MAS or micro artist studio, those are roughly 10 watchmakers. Those are the best watchmakers probably in Japan, probably from Seiko. And those 10 watchmakers make around 50 watches per year, including the two that you've just seen. So those guys are in very close touch with Philippe Dufour, who we found out is the best or the most respected watchmaker alive at the moment. He makes incredible watches. The finishing of his watches is out of its world, and he's in current exchange with the masters from the micro artist studio, and that is enough for me to know that those watches are really special. So from a finishing perspective, the anglage, that beveled anglage is mind blowing. I've never seen that before, but I haven't seen a Recepi, for example, and I haven't seen a Philippe Dufour in real life, but I've never seen this kind of anglage on any other watch. So that is mind blowing. But there are not many internal angle. There is only one, and there are only those two main plates and that bellflower that is really decorated with that anglage. I'm pretty sure there is going much more on that we don't know, and the guys from the micro artist studio are doing a good job not communicating outside. If you have an idea about the system of superiority that goes in Japan, experience, having done things for decades, is king in Japan, and this kind of decoration is so subtle compared to the Swiss guys who are all bells and whistles. The Germans are a little bit more subdued, but the Japanese are super discreet from a first glance. But then when you dive a little bit deeper, you see how beautifully those things are done just have a look at those countersinks around the screws. They are perfectly polished, each single one of them. Also, one very difficult part is where the anglage on those bridges is meeting one of those ruby bearings. On the other movement, there are some very delicate transversions that include the beveling then on those pivots. So all that is done to perfection, to absolute perfection, and the value on those watches is in the movement and in the decoration of the movement.
So we have our first super chat of the day. Thank you, Cosmic, $5. MAS were mentored and guided by Dufour. Understandably expensive and requires approval to get one.
Exactly. Yeah.
Great.
That sums it up, and that is enough credit for me to be very interested in what they're doing, and the anglage is really impressive.
You are getting a bit of challenges here from Kelsowitz. Only one internal angle, not so impressive compared to Laurent Ferrier and FP Journe. I don't see a ton of internal angles on FP Journe pieces.
Well, first of all, if you have a look at that bellflower, you will see a lot more internal angle than only one. All those stars and everything, there are some internal angles as well. Secondly, I would say it is not the number of internal angle that counts. It is the perfection, how they are done. And that is typical Japanese. They do one, but absolutely perfect and mind-blowing, instead of 10 that are cluttered around the movement. And you can pick and choose what you prefer.
Question from John O. Do you think if Grand Seiko just became Creedor, it would help its acceptance?
That is a very good question. And, Tan, you and I, we have this ongoing discussion about Phoenix brands.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you're quite upset with Chapek for using that name, that old name, for a product that has nothing to do with the old Chapek company. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm being very vocal about that.
Yeah. So basically, your accusation, if I make it a little bit dramatic, is you say they're misleading people with that name.
I think it. I wouldn't. Okay, so I wouldn't consider it an accusation, right? Like they're very honest about. If you go to their webpage and I'll pull it up just to show what I mean. Let me just find Chapek here. Chapek.com. Let's see if it pulls up. Yeah, here we go. And let's go to their history, because they have a section on their webpage that says Our Story. Let me share this tab here. Our Story, and it kind of starts at the lineage of 1811, and it talks about Chapek, where he was born, and then his history, and then how he met Patek, and they built a company, et cetera, et cetera. And then, he was widely recognized. And then 1869, Chapek disappears mysteriously, like just gone from the books. This is in 1869, and then 2012, we name a company after this brand. So to me, it's do I like the pieces? Absolutely. I think they make some great watches. I think that the brand could have you got brands like Laurent Ferrier, you got brands like FP Journe, Carré Line, and these brands that are named after watchmakers that founded them, that obviously are the watchmakers.
Yeah, but there is no famous watchmaker in the.
But they doesn't. But I'll use the same argument. Richard Mille is not a watchmaker. Richard Mille is is a marketer, right?
Yeah.
But named his brand, fairly enough after himself. But does not take the name Chapek from somebody who they have no connection to. And arguably, if you see this website, they're telling the story of somebody named Chapek who was, a co-founder of Patek Philippe, or Patek Chapek and C at the time. And then, it's one thing to just call your company a name and not show the lineage, because you just chose that name, and maybe it's a common common name that you could pick, or you're named after that name and you're just completely different. But it's another thing to then try to tell the story of somebody else, put it on your website, and say the guy mysteriously disappears and then shows
Mm.
up, and then the branch. So I do find that I do find that misleading.
Yep.
And folks some folks may think that it has some lineage to Chapek, and I appreciate that they put this on the website, and it's for the reader to see that actually there is no lineage to the brand, and that's what they're doing. But it's a bit off-putting to me. That's my opinion on it.
Look, but I don't want to do that discussion with you tonight, because first of all, food is waiting, and secondly, my point was something else. So if you have a product, and for whatever reason, give your product a different name, you always run into an accusation that you're pretending to be something that you're not really are. The argument is, why don't Seiko label those high-end watches with a different name, just to make them more valuable? And my counter argument against it is, why would a company like Seiko try to hide their proud name and put out or expose themselves to the accusation that they label a product with a name that they're not really behind? So probably they're
Because branding,
hiding
because
from the.
no, it's because branding is important, Jonathan. Like,
Hmm.
you and I, we obviously appreciate pieces beyond the brand name, but many people, I wouldn't say most people, but many people buy a watch, because of the brand, Rolex,
Mhm.
Patek Philippe, Audemars Piguet, whatever it might be. And so when you're spending, tens of thousands, $50,000 on a brand, on a watch that you could buy at J.C. Penney, people don't like that. They don't like the fact they want to pay for exclusivity, and they feel that including that name, which is not exclusive, um, is just not something they want to spend their money on.
So
You
yeah,
know,
but the people want to be fooled. They get a better feeling when there is a different name on. And my point is, guys, appreciate the watchmaking, appreciate the product. Doesn't matter what it's labeled, what it's named. Just appreciate the product. Doesn't matter what name is written on. I had this discussion with Benjamin Chi on my World Timer.
mhm.
He offered me to remove his logo from the dial. And I told him, why would you do? Why would you do that? You created that beautiful thing, so you should be incorporated on the dial.
Yeah, I think in his scenario it's a bit different, right? Like maybe folks they don't know who he is, or they perceive maybe a piece made in Asia as being inferior. I don't know, right?
Hmm.
And I agree with you. I wouldn't have removed his name. I think he should be proud of the work he's done. And obviously, you and I have been pretty vocal about appreciating his work, and hopefully, at some point he'll come again on your show, and I'll have an opportunity to speak to him, and or swing. I know Swinging Kangaroo is very excited by his pieces, and other folks. But this is how names get out, right? This is how the grassroots happens, is people start appreciating it, and his name will go out. But I think in the Seiko example is Seiko had made the conscious choice to market their brand all across the spectrum, whether it's very very low end to very very high end, and it's confusing to customers, and it alienates customers that don't want to associate with the lower end brand. They just don't want to, whether they're stupid or not in terms of understanding the quality. The reality is, Jonathan, I mean, how many buyers of watches out there really go and look for movement finishing, or even understand? Like when Cosmic was showing the creator yesterday, I was super chatting, saying, Archie, look at the movement finishing. Like, that's a beautifully finished movement, and it kind of just over his head, right? He didn't care,
Hmm.
because to him that's not something he cares about necessarily, right? Um,
Yeah, but do you think a different name would attract more people, or you have to keep in mind, Grand Seiko or Micro Artist. Grand Seiko is on the international market now for 20 years,
mhm,
so their roots are in Japan. And Japanese people probably perceive products differently than us Westerners. Keep in mind, naming Toyota or Lexus was because of the American market. That was
Yeah,
not
look,
because of the Japanese market. Well, somebody could object. They have a model which is called the Crown, but I think it's still labeled Toyota, isn't it?
I'm gonna just park that comment because I want to say hi to a few people in the chat and then just get a little caught up and then I'll come back to it. Jay Wright, hey Tan, hey Jay Wright, how's it going? We got Neo, hello humanity, great to see you, Neo. We always love seeing you. We got Forbin Colossus here in the chat, and a bunch of other folks. Um, we got a super chat here from Faber Watches. Cheers, Archie. Well, thank you for the €2.49. Faber. Archie is unfortunately not here. We are the B team, but we do appreciate the donation. I'll let Archie know tonight that you said hello. Huge ass says hi Tan. Hi huge ass. So going back to your comment. Around should should they change their name? And here's the thing, right? Grand Seiko is perceived differently today than it was 4 or 5 years ago.
I
When I
totally
was
agree with you. Yes.
4 or 5 years ago, Archie Luxury, when I was on the live streams with him, the second you mentioned Grand Seiko, he was like, shitter. Don't care how good it is, shitter. I don't like the name Seiko. 5 years later, yes, that element still exists. There are people who just won't. I mean, we've heard it from Alex, Perpetual Time, who's come on the show and said, hey, I love the watch, but I hate the name. And other people that just cannot get past the name. But that's breaking down, I think, a lot.
Exactly.
And over time,
Yeah.
I think more awareness is happening around the brand, and is it going to take time? Absolutely, but it did take them a hell of a long time to also, build the brand into what it is and the perception of it. So yeah, it's going to take time to obviously unwind it. So the question is that should they change it? I don't think so. I don't think they have to. I agree with you that Seiko, in and of itself, is a powerhouse horology manufacturer. They've got a long history manufacturing a lot of pieces, whether it's dive watches. I can argue with people all day long about them, inventing or creating the first automatic chronograph with the 6139 speed timer and everything else. They have a lot of innovation. They, invented quartz, or the first to come to the market with quartz, to spring drive, to a whole bunch of different pieces of technology and horology that they've put to market. And yeah, look, they should be proud of the brand. Now, the education to the certain markets is going to be very difficult, but interestingly enough, other brands, like I was watching Watchbox Studios video with the Arab Watch Guide talking about even high-end brands like MB&F and other ones that are struggling to get into the Middle East market because the Middle East buyer is looking for Rolex or Patek only because they are the
Yeah.
well-known brands. So even these other high-end brands that are doing well in other markets also struggle because of brand awareness. So I think Grand Seiko or Seiko itself should just, really double down, stick to their guns, continue making watches, continue building off of their laurels. And yeah, look, this brand awareness I think will go away after a while.
Yes, I agree. And we today we had a super chat on the early show or the night show for Archie, and somebody was asking, "I have a Tudor. Should I buy a Grand Seiko GMT because my colleagues are looking down on the Tudor?" And I told him, if you want to impress others, Grand Seiko is not a brand for you. In my opinion, Grand Seikos are calling you if you appreciate brands or if you appreciate watchmaking, and that is the goal, and that includes that many of your friends will look down on a Grand Seiko because they see the Seiko name on the dial. If that recognition from your friends, from your pals, is important to you, my advice is don't buy a Grand Seiko. Buy a Grand Seiko because you like it.
We've got a super chat from our European friend Faber Watches, €2.49. A team, let's go. Thank you, Faber Watches. We Dan says the Peacock. Yes, one of my favorite Grand Seikos is the Peacock. And look, it's brand recognition is branding is very important in the watch game. And there's nothing wrong with people buying and being interested in brands, and learning about brands. I think a lot of folks are still learning, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? You start there, and then you go down the rabbit hole of learning. And I try not to get. I know you got a little triggered off of Timely's comments and
Me
GMT.
triggered?
Yeah.
No, I was just triggered because he was plainly wrong with
Yeah, but
Journe and
this is what I was trying to
Tantalum.
explain to you is look, I don't get angry when people make comments about whatever I like, right? Because at the end of the day, it's something I enjoy and something I research, and it appeals to me, right? That doesn't always appeal to everybody, and or people, just like you said, may not have enough education to be making the statement that they're making. Now, does that anger me? Not really. I would rather spend my time educating that individual on why I believe that maybe they should look at least a deeper look at the brand before coming to a harsh conclusion around it. Doing that with Archie Luxury is going to be extremely difficult. It's like an immovable object with him. I'm actually surprised he started to like Lange and FP Journe.
Yeah, that's a
He was
big progress, isn't it?
Yeah, but think of Lange itself, right? I used to call Lange a Lange in depreciation is what I used to call it.
Okay.
But it was true, 4 or 5 years ago, where you'd buy a Lange, and it wouldn't really necessarily hold its value,
Yeah.
and it was not cheap, right? You're talking entry level Patek money for a Lange one, and at the time I was like, I can appreciate the finishing, and the design is okay. It didn't really appeal to me, but could I appreciate that it was a better finished watch? Absolutely. But for me, it's the whole package I'm looking at when I'm buying a watch. I'm looking at the brand, I'm looking at the design, I'm looking at the finishing, I'm looking at value retention, I'm looking at a lot of things. I don't believe that any single area is going to swing my vote in terms of making a decision to buy it. But at the time, I just didn't think it was. But now, think 5 years later, it's not Lange in depreciation. They're actually
Yeah.
going up,
And the
right?
products haven't changed a bit. The quality of the product hasn't changed. It was just your perception, your experience with the watches.
FP Journe Octalune. Okay, let's pull up the FP Journe Octalune for my friend Geezer here.
Tanzil, I'm afraid I have to go for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, take your time. Take your time. Eat your dinner.
Yeah. So
And
talk to you
I'll.
later. Maybe someone else can hop in
Sure. Yeah, no problem. No problem.
and hold
Take
your
your
hand.
time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk to you later. Bye
Talk
bye.
to you in a bit. Let me pull up a Octaloon for everybody here. Let me see if I can actually get one. I'll just pull up a loon from the website itself. All right, so we've got the FP Journe Octaloon caliber 1300. So you have a choice of 38 or 40 millimeter, average thickness about 10.6 millimeters. You can get the dial in white gold or white and guilloche silver. And the hands are blued steel, which is very quintessential FP Journe. Just off the clip here, Geezer. To me, aesthetic of this watch is quite beautiful. And I'll zoom in a bit here. I do find this style to be very pleasing. I like the moon phase here, phase de lune, moon phase. Um, very very cool. Very to me quintessential design from FP Journe. And it's got a bunch of technical data here. Won the GPHG in 2003. Let's go through here and check it out. No, really, really well designed piece. Looks really cool. Let's see if I can find different pictures for it. Um, yeah, you know what? I don't know if I like the platinum case more than the gold case. I think I'd probably go with the platinum myself on this one. Not a huge fan of the bracelet. I know some people dig this style of bracelet. Not really my cup of tea on the bracelet. Let's look at other options here. Um, so different platinum case, and then you got a gold dial. Yeah, I honestly, I'd still go probably with this configuration if it were me on the Octaloon. But yeah, look, very cool piece. Like I said, for me, FP Journe is a brand that I talked about this a few weeks ago, where I was talking to a buddy of mine about FP Journe. He's a big Patek collector, and I asked him, "Hey, why don't you have any Journes?" And he said, "Look, like I just can't stomach what dealers are asking for these pieces. When you try to sell them." When I buy them, they want all this money, but when I try to sell them, they absolutely destroy me compared to Patek and other brands. Like they're not, and sure, there's maybe a concentrated group that are spruiking Journes out there and on YouTube, but he's just like, try selling a Journe to a dealer and see what happens. So he said that the bid and ask spread is very high on Journes themselves, and it just kind of keeps them away from it. But purely from loving watches and loving the aesthetics, I think this is a great looking watch. Don't find anything wrong with it. I do like it only probably in one configuration. He's just hopefully that answer it. Der Stiefel, a former Grand Seiko fan. I love his avatar. It says Grand Seiko sucks. When I ran out of toilet paper in the pandemic, I just started out using Grand Seiko rice paper. They work great wiping my butt. Der Stiefel, I know, at one point went down the rabbit hole of Grand Seiko, and I found it interesting that he would. I never really thought he was going to be much of a Grand Seiko fan. He was obviously into Rolex and Patek, but he's definitely gone down the rabbit hole, and he's done his research. And I think he's owned some as well. No, he did own some, yes. And yeah, like it's, I would take the word from an owner to tell you whether it's any good or whether their experience was great or not. Kelselwitz says, Geezer, all FP drones are absolute grails. Can't go wrong. Get on the list. Yes. Don't make my mistake, Geezer, where I could have gotten a Chronomet Bleu at retail and then backed out on it. Kelselwitz, I'm on the list for the Chronomet Souverain Havana Brown. Oh, we got a guest. It's the old Gin and Tan show. How's it going? Oh my God.
Yeah.
What's happening, buddy?
Not much.
Hello? Can you hear me? Hello, hello, hello? Oh, there you go. Can you hear me now? Sorry, I popped off.
Yeah, sorry, my IT is powered by ArchieLuxury, so it's not.
Your IT's perfect. Okay, yeah, no, sorry, it was my bad. I think I dropped off there. Yeah, Tan and Gin, great show so far, guys. I apologize for that. That's my bad. But yeah, no, we were talking Grand Seikos, we were talking FP Journes. Kelselwitz is saying he's on the list for a Chronomet Souverain Havana Brown, platinum case, and automatic classic with salmon down platinum case, hopefully 2024. What do you think, Jin? What do you think?
I think the watch is nice. I think the list is. Oh, I mean, good luck. I mean that genuinely, but yeah, it's might take some time.
Yeah, I would say that he's saying that the platinum bracelet is costs more than most watches. They're about 50K, not worth it. Quick release strap from FP Journe is the only way to go. Yeah, like, I'm just not a big fan of the bracelet here on the Journes, Jin. What do you think?
I mean, it's big money in any brand, isn't it? Precious metal bracelets. And Der Stiefel saying that he's owned 6 Grand Seikos. Yeah, so I think that's plenty of experience. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the Journes on the bracelets, although I do like bracelets in general.
We're going to give a big congratulations to our friend Der Stiefel, who got his first Patek today, 5134P, and I'm absolutely loving it. For you, Der Stiefel, I'm going to pull this up.
Shit.
5134P.
We always talk about, I talked about the 5134 not that long ago on Archie's channel when someone asked about a 2-piece combo meal deal. Yeah, it's a great watch, great value, beautiful looks.
Talk to me about the 5134 here, Jen. I'm sure you've talked about it a couple of times. Platinum case, the king of metals here. You got crown guards, which is really cool. I know not everybody likes crown guards on their dress watch, but I find it very endearing on Pateks. What do you think here? Talk to me about the 5134. What do you like about this piece?
Well, you're right that the crown guards are unusual, and they're very. It's a signature of a certain era of Calatrava that they made, right? And yeah, I mean it's a manual movement. It's very slim. It's kind of a good size, good conservative but very wearable size. Um, yeah, and it's a complicated Patek that's not huge money, but and also very like it's not that it's unappreciated. It's that it's almost like unknown, right? It's like people don't even think about them, which is great because it's not a you don't have to have what everybody else has.
Well, look, you got a travel time complication, right? So this is a complicated Patek in platinum. And like I said, I do dig the crown guards, right? Like I had crown guards on the 5127. Archie had crown guards on the 5107. There's crown guards on the 5110 World Time. Um, and a couple other pieces out there that have crown guards. So really, really, like you said, an icon of an era for Patek Philippe. So obviously, huge congrats to Der Stiefel. Der Stiefel, if you're around tonight and you're willing to come on camera, I know you haven't been on the show in many, many years, but if you do want to hop on with Archie tonight, I think it would be a great like unboxing or just showing the watch it live because I'd love to see it, man.
Yeah.
We got Swinging Kangaroo in the house saying, "What's going on? How's it going, Swinging Kangaroo?" We got some congrats here for Der Stiefel from the chat. And Der Stiefel says, "I think they only made the 5134 for 6 years, and platinum is the least made. So I was happy to snatch it up. I don't see it. Yeah, dude. Like like Jen was saying, they're pretty rare. They're not a ton of them around, right? Which makes it a good a good piece to actually become a conversation starter, in my opinion. Because for me, travel time, like I love this layout. I think this is schmicko, as Jen would say, just
Yeah.
absolute schmicko. We'll pull up a bit of a different picture here for everybody to kind of see the dial. But you see the bezel. It reminds me a lot of the 5107. Did you see that in the bezel? Just a bit of the case design here
And the
on
case
the.
shape in general, I think it's almost obviously the 5127 is automatic, so it's a bit thicker, but the general shape and design is very similar.
Der Stiefel, talk to us a bit about how the watch wears on the wrist because it's 37 millimeter, and with Patek 37s, I've seen two sides of the spectrum with them. When I had the annual calendar 5035, the 37 millimeter fit a bit smaller than 37, fit like a 36, but my 5196, which is a 37, fits closer to a 38. So, be interested to know if this fits true to size or if you feel it fits a bit small or whatnot because obviously everyone's in when you get into 37, 38, it's a bit of a it can kind of go either way, I would say, in terms of the way the watch wears. Geezer does say he does like the old avatar from Der Stiefel, but we will pull up the Grand Seiko sucks just to trigger our friend Higgins while he's eating his dinner here. But we were talking, Jin, on Grand Seiko, and the question was asked: should they change their name? Um, what do you think? Do you think that it's hurting their ability to sell watches or be able to penetrate certain markets with their watches?
Well, they used to have the Seiko logo on the dials, right? Up until about maybe 5 years ago when they stopped doing it.
Hmm.
And I think that was a conscious decision, recognizing that it's kind of weird to have like the parent company name and the brand's name and style at the same time. And also like Seiko on a watch means something different.
Hmm.
I don't I think it's very tough for them to change their name and like walk away from the history that they've created with the brand. Um, Maybe they could launch like another brand, but you feel that that would kind of devalue the uh, the Grand Seiko brand. It's like I don't I don't know. I mean, they have a pretty good following. Like they've done really well. Partly, I assume, because of Hodinkee
Hmm.
spruiking them in the U.S. and then they launched the boutiques in like Rodeo Drive and elsewhere in the U.S. over the past decade. And I honestly, I think they're pretty much where they want to be, and I don't think that they really need to change their name to be consistent with that strategy.
We keep talking about Seikos, and it's like I feel like it's the Godfather Part 3. You know, just when I thought I was out, they keep pulling me back in here with Patek. So we got Forbidden Colossus, or Forbidden Colossus, as I think Archie likes to say. Have you seen the 6002G? This is a Sky Moon Tourbillon. I think not everybody's familiar with this piece. It's obviously got very, very high finishing hand engraving on the case. It is a tourbillon with Sky Moon complication. I'll pull up the Hodinkee article here for everybody to kind of see what it looks like. Probably get better pictures here. So, folks are and probably know the Celestial, and it's kind of showing here the Celestial and the Sky Moon tourbillon dial. Do I, so obviously I've seen this piece. Do I love it? I'm not a huge fan of the engraving on the cases. I can appreciate the hand craftsmanship that goes into it, but not my cup of tea of something I'd be looking to buy or wear if I had this kind of money to spend on it. As you notice here, Jin, no quick release slugs. They're not expecting you to change the strap very easily on this one. But yeah, no, that's the Sky Moon Tourbillon. And another Patek question here before I get to that super chat. Geezer's asking my thoughts on the Nautilus 5726. I believe this is the annual calendar Nautilus Patek 5726A in steel. So we have, is this, is it the strap version he's looking for, or is he looking for the bracelet version? 1A-104. Let me just pull that up. -104. He's looking at the bracelet version. Pull it up on Patek's site. Stainless steel, obviously signified by the A in the name. So we got an annual calendar moon phase Nautilus, and yeah, look, I think they discontinued this one, and they relaunched it here. Sorry, I wasn't sharing my tab. One of my favorite Nautili is this piece, the 5726 annual calendar version. I don't think I'll ever get the perpetual calendar, but I had the 5711. I didn't care for the 5712, but I do care for the 5726. Jen, do you like the annual calendar version, or do you prefer the 5712, for example?
I prefer the 5712. Design-wise, I'm totally on board with this, but yeah. I feel like when you're reaching at this level, you got to go big or go home, kind of thing.
For sure. All right, we got another super chat here, so I'll pull this up from Jay Wright, £2. Thank you, Jay Wright. Tan, you like Tool watches, a Marathon Auto, a 41mm in white. So this is the black. Let me see if I can find Marathon Auto. Let's see, white. Is there a picture here of the white? The black one here. I don't know if there's a
Is
white.
that the one that you see on Best Buy Canada in the shopping link on Google?
I'm not obviously very familiar with this brand, so I'm trying to find the here we go.
There we go.
Yeah, here we go. And let's look at it on. Let's go on the rubber. Let's put up on rubber. Let's have a look here at our Marathon Auto. I actually don't mind the white. I like it on the rubber. I was not a huge fan of it on the bracelet, but I've been kind of moving away from the bracelet. So commonly known as the Government Search and Rescue, GSAR is the most storied and venerable of our SAR class of watches. Available dial options are the black dial, no government markings, U.S. government, USMC insignia, gray maple markings, Arctic white dial. Okay, so it's definitely got a couple of different options here on the. Let's look at what this looks like on the wrist. Jen, your thoughts on the aesthetic of this piece?
Well, I'm not a fan of these watches in general. I don't really, I told Mark Goldberg, who has a black one, that the radioactivity symbol on the dial is because the watch is toxic sludge. Sorry, guys, I'm just being honest. And yeah, I mean, honestly, the in white, I feel it looks like a very looks almost mundane Swiss Railway watch-ish. which
Hey man,
but
it was developed to the Canadian government requirements for use in SAR operations. So we gotta give it to the old Canuck government here.
well, it is in the white one is more Canadianish in color, I guess.
Mhm.
But yeah, no, this is just horrible.
Ouch.
Sorry, I'm just being
He's
honest.
just he's laughing out loud. Look, hey, for me, Jay, right? I actually don't mind this piece. Jin's a little harsh on the brand. But Salida movement, it's got the tritium gas tubes, which is pretty cool. I've never actually owned a watch that had that type of loom. So yeah, it's and it's got 1,800 Canadian dollars, but Jin would never buy one. So um, Jin, if you are sponsored from that AD that recognized you on from the live stream, maybe they'll get you one.
I think they'll more likely get me a something even worse, like some quartz Movado shitter or something. But if I'm lucky.
Stiefel says, I love the 5712. I would kill to get one at retail. Would never buy one on the secondhand prices. Yeah, when I was buying the 5711, I had the option of getting the 5712, and I just preferred the cleaner dial of the traditional Nautilus. But yeah, I like the layout of this annual calendar pretty well. So we've got Swing Kangaroo, a 5396R, a blue dial with diamond markers. See if I can find a 5396 annual calendar, blue dial, diamond.
That's the one with the baguette
Yeah,
images.
yeah. That is the modern. Actually, it's the modern version. They still have it on the website. I'll try to find a good picture of it on the wrist here.
You
Yeah,
know, I actually prefer the 5146 over the 5396. I
that
think,
is a very unpopular opinion.
yeah,
And I like the 5396 better than the 5146. It's just I like the layout a lot better. Like I think this layout was from a previous perpetual calendar. I think this is a very clean layout, very legible. 5146 is cool. I'll show you guys the 5146 for those that don't know what that looks like.
I think people like the 5396 because it's that, as you said, the dial is inspired by the 3448, which of course is one of the most legendary, well, the most legendary Patek Perpetual
Mhm.
um, in history. But the problem again is I think the size. When you blow up the watch without this growing the movement, it looks a bit cross-eyed to me. Whereas this, I feel that they can get away with it a little better just because the dial layout, the Patek signature at the bottom is very unusual. And
It
this is,
wasn't very popular because on the 5035 they had it at the top, and this was controversial putting it at the bottom.
yeah, and I think it's different, and that's kind of what makes it special. Like the eggshellish dial is really nice. Yeah, I mean, what's not? I think, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people like this, but then out of those, many of them or most of them probably prefer the 5396. So you're right that I'm in the
Well,
minority.
look, a lot of folks are, they're not even that hyped about the 5396. They, the new baby in town is the 5205. Everyone likes the 5205 layout of the annual calendar. Not really my favorite, but I'll pull up a 5205 annual. Some people prefer this one over the 5396. Not my cup of tea, but I don't know. If you were to rank the 5205, 5146, and 5396 in order of best to worst, in your opinion, what would they be?
I think this 5205 with the data with the apertures, I think it's very 5960-ish, which I love the 5960, but I feel that the 5960 works a bit better. I like the 5146 best. I would say that I like this maybe second best, and I like the 396 the least. But I mean, it's not that I don't like it. It's just that it would be the third out of three.
We got Gun Glutton who says, I can't super chat because I'm not home. Should I ask David SW if I can live stream with you in their shop when I go there to get my next watch? I'm still unsure what I'm getting. Gun Glutton, why not? I'm sure David SW would be fine live streaming on the Archie Luxury channel. He is a sponsor of the Archie Luxury channel. David SW has been a long time trusted seller on the Rolex forums, and I've done many transactions. I bought my Nautilus from him, and every transaction I've done with David SW has been excellent. A number of my friends have done, transactions with him that have been excellent. I've seen transactions, either myself or my friends, that have had some issues that David SW immediately corrected, and acted with extreme professionalism. So I would say, from firsthand experience, having done many, many transactions with David SW, outside of it being biased that he's a sponsor of ArchieLuxury, but from my personal experience, you really would never have to worry with dealing with that dealer. He is top notch. Jen, I don't know if have you ever bought anything from David SW?
No, I'm too cheap to buy from reputable dealers. I'd rather hunt for my watches in Eastern Europe.
Yeah, you definitely like a deal here. Jersey says, I think the next piece I'm going to go after is a black dial 5035G. So that's the annual calendar. I was showing that earlier. I'll pull it back up here for our buddy Der Stiefel here. Whoops, pulled up the wrong thing. 5305 G Patek. Sorry, 5035. What the hell am I doing here? 5035G. So he's got it he wants the black dial configuration. So I had the slate gray dial here, Der Stiefel, which Jin trolled me on because it had the Italian disc. One interesting, cool piece about the 5035 Der Stiefel is the Roman numeral 4 as an IV. So traditionally on watches, you'll see 4 as I, or 4 eyes. Whereas on this watch, very unusually, they use the IV Roman numeral.
Maybe they ran out of eyes.
They could have. It's quite possible. Look at this error dial here. So you see. I thought I pulled up a fake watch, to be honest with you, before I zoomed out, and it's an error dial. Where you got the 4, and then you got the V that's all like an I. So maybe they missed, and they made a bunch of error dials on the salmon here on the 5035. But I do.
You should get a salmon. I mean, a salmon Patek is never a bad buy.
No, I agree. I'd love to get a salmon. Here's one on the wrist here, which is a white gold salmon dial. Very, very cool piece. I've never seen this before. 5035 is like a red dial. Like, I don't know what this is. I don't know if that's a custom dial or if that's just fake. Well, here's a black dial here for Der Stiefel. Classic piece. Archie even said that the black dials back in the day were reserved for platinum, because the 5035P, I believe, is a black dial watch. And yeah, so Forbin Colossus is asking, can we look at the new Blancpain 50 Fathoms Tech? I don't know what this is. I've seen the 50 Fathoms new releases, the 70th anniversary, but I don't know if it's called the Tech Gombessa. That's what I'm seeing here on YouTube. Tech Gombessa. Let's pull this up. Blancpain, one of your favorite brands here, Jin. So this is the 70th Tech Gombessa. What do you think of this 50 Fathoms?
Well, you know what I always say about the 50 Fathoms, right? They call it the 50 Fathoms because that's how far you have to go to sell one. But honestly, like it's okay. I find that the kind of wearability of their watches can vary greatly, like the dive watches. I'm more into their dress watches, like the Chinese calendar is like literally my grail watch.
I'm not playing the sound because I think sometimes the sound can ding the monetization on the channel. I had that happen once on JJ's channel when I was streaming. Yeah, like, I'd really love to have Don Haynes here talking about this because he'd probably go like in super depth about it. It's not something I'm super interested in. But yeah, Forbin, what do you like about this piece? Because yeah, exactly. He would defend 50 like a crusade. He definitely would. For me and Jen, not. I thought Jen might have had more of an affinity for Blancpain, but not so much on my side. I like the 50 Fathoms. I can appreciate the 50 Fathoms, but not my favorite of all brands. But yeah, Jen, I don't think you've ever had an interest in buying a 50 Fathoms at all, have you?
No, I went to the boutique in New York a few years ago just to see kind of what it was about, and try all of them on. So I tried the titanium 45 mil on, the steel one. The steel one was a tank, and 45 mils is enormous. And I tried like the bathscap and a couple of the dress pieces, but I yeah, I mean, it didn't really do anything for me. But then again, dive watches in general, it's well known that I'm not a fan of them. So, um, yeah, it's just not really my thing.
Hmm. No, that makes sense. I know not a lot of folks aren't super into the 50 fathoms. Derstiefel says, I have the standard 50 fathoms. I really like it. Got it for a steel at Jump Shop. Yeah, Derstiefel, if I could get it on a steel on the original 50 fathoms or maybe the NORAD, like, dude, yeah, like I would totally go with a standard 50 fathoms at a big discount. But at the prices that they are asking for, that are sometimes well above well, maybe at retail above a Submariner, but still at prices of maybe a 5-digit Submariner, not really interested. I would be looking for something really cheap. He says the Blancpain boutique in New York is amazing, beautiful boutique.
It is
Um,
beautiful. They got 2 stories. They have like beautiful display cases, nice artwork, and kind of a general setup. Yeah, it's nice. One of the best.
One of the best. I've got a Chapek on the screen, Jin. I don't know how much you've been interested in Chapeks. This is the Key de Berg, Chapek. We'll show the price. This is what scares Archie. 31,800 Swiss francs, excluding the VAT or the VAT. What do you think of this watch? Would you wear this piece?
Would I wear it?
Do you like the fleur de lis hands here? The you can remember, you can remind you maybe of the flag of Quebec.
I think that's a little over the top. Um, Over the top. I mean, especially with a name like Chapek, and then putting fleur de lis hands on the watch kind of clashes for me. I Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate like the fact that mechanically it's a very nice watch, but I just I yeah, I mean, I have nothing against like the brand or the
Well,
or
we're gonna
anything
go
like that.
into your dislike for the brand here because me and Higgins were talking about this, and Higgins says I get very triggered when it comes to the brand, and I said, look, their website shows the history that they're trying to describe, and for those that don't know, Jin actually came up with the term Phoenix brand. So I did not come up with that term. I was streaming with Jin when he called watches Phoenix brands, which means that they died and now they've risen from the ashes. Now this brand itself, Chapek himself was, a partner of Patek when they had Patek, Chapek, and C. And in the history of Chapek's website, they obviously talk a lot about that. And then here's the interesting part, Jen. So we go through all of his history and how amazing he was. And then right here it says 1869, Chapek disappears mysteriously, right?
Mhm.
1869. And then right away it goes to 2012. Like there's your Phoenix right here. This is the Phoenix right here is 1869 and then boom 2012. Now this brand has nothing to do with um
The founder.
the
Well,
founder,
well, not even the founder. It's just his name.
his name, right? So I was telling Higgins, I said, I got nothing against their watches. I appreciate and I do like their watches, and I'd love to have an Antarctique. But I think that they could have rested on their laurels of watchmaking and used another name rather than resurrecting a name of somebody who has some affiliation to Paddock. To me, gives a bit of like, hey, I'm trying to get a bit of credibility. In my pieces, like, no, your credibility should come from the craftsmanship of your work, not from your name. And I find that a bit deceitful, or just not. It's off-putting to me. I don't like that about the brand. I don't know if you feel differently or if you feel it's okay to do something like this.
I mean, from a business decision perspective, I understand, but yeah, it is off-putting. I think that's the right term. But if you're launching a new brand, what can you name your watch brand? You can either come up with a bullshit name, Frederic Constant, which is just like fucking like that's just a totally bullshit name that sounds semi-real.
Hmm.
You can it can be like an eponymous brand named after the head watchmaker or like the creative force behind the brand. Which, I mean, well, one, not all names translate very well to a brand, and two, I think, you know, if there may not be like enough esteem or appetite in the market to sustain that brand on that name. And the third option is just buying a name. And I think this, like Moritz Grossman is another example, right? And
It is, yeah, it absolutely is. And look, they make amazing watches, and yeah, like, look, I got nothing against the pieces that these guys make. They're amazing. Like, would I love to own one of them? Absolutely. And look, I get it. Like, it's and I was telling this to Higgins. I mean, the brand is important to people. That was the whole debate about Seiko and Grand Seiko is people don't want to spend crazy money on a brand that they see, being sold in J.C. Penney or wherever, Target or Macy's or wherever you could find a Seiko, right? Um, Good friend of the channel, Raymond Zhao, who said we need to bring watch snobbery back to the Archie Luxury channel. So he's coming with a heavy hitter here, the LUC Chopard Full Strike Sapphire. What do y'all think? Now this is an interesting one, Raymond. Thank you for asking about this one. I'm going to show it to you. A full sapphire piece. So it says Full Strike Sapphire, new watch cut from blocks of sapphire measuring 42.5 millimeters in diameter, totally transparent, offers this is cool, 360-degree view of the movement with exceptional finish. Now, Elie Chopard does great finishing. I'm a big fan of the Grand Cru. And I know Higgins loves the one that's like, I think it's a jump, I think it's like a big jump hour piece. I don't remember his one that he really likes, but what do you think, Jen, of this Full Strike Sapphire? Like, I think this is fucking amazing. And yes, ignore your emails and ignore your meeting requests.
yeah, no. Well, I will say that transparency is very rare in the Switch watchmaking industry, so I'll give them credit for creating some form of transparency. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm a big fan of the finishing and the kind of movements as well.
Well, this is a Geneva seal as well, right? You can see your
Yeah.
Geneva seal. And you got really good finishing on Elie Chopard. It's the first watch, it says here, the first non-metallic watch to bear the prestigious Poisson de Genève quality hallmark, covering both the design and finishing of the case and movement. Now, this is super interesting because the case is a sapphire case, see-through with the Poisson de Genève, which is totally it's totally unique. I'm gonna try to play this video without let's see if I can play without sound, just because I don't want to get any issues for Archie. But I'll play this video for you guys, just to kind of highlight the Full Strike Sapphire Elie Chopard. Chopard presents, and I know you like Chopard as well. Like you're a big fan of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know it's
Yeah, it's interesting because you think of Chopard, and obviously you think of a jewelry brand, and you would think that one of the strengths of a jewelry brand is that they can make really nice cases and do like really nice metal work. So for them to, and obviously Chopard has a great watchmaking heritage as well, but for them to step away from metal and go into sapphire is interesting, at least.
No, it's man, for it to also get the Geneva seal on the case is spectacular. Like it's Raymond, absolutely amazing piece. Thank you for sharing that. I've actually haven't seen this watch, so definitely one that I'm very, very interested in probably digging a little bit deeper into. But we do have a super chat from our good friend Jay Wright, £2. Jin Patek Lamagna 5970p black dial, most stylish. So I'll pull this up for you, Jin, to give Jay Wright your thoughts on the perpetual calendar chronograph. This is the successor to the legendary 3970 with the Lamagna movement. Is the black dial the most stylish?
It definitely is stylish. I mean, this is one of the references that people like that are the most collectible, even within perpetual calendar chronographs, right? It's yeah, I mean, it's a platinum perpetual calendar chronograph, for fuck's sake. I mean, of course it is the most stylish.
We got our a friend Durstiefel wanting to see a Jacob and Co. Mount Everest. Let's see if I can pull up an image here of it because um, excuse me, so I'll blow this up here. Share this tab, and this is for Durstiefel, Jacob and Co. Mount Everest. There you go. I don't know, Jen, if you're a big fan of Jacob and Co. Before you get to that, I'll give the response. Look, Jay, right, you can't go wrong with any 5970p, 5970, but the platinum for me, black dial, is the epitome. I would get the platinum if you could get the platinum. I love it. Great stylish watch, and definitely of an era when black dial Pateks in platinum were really what the brand was about. You see platinum these days. They have, for example, the salmon dial 57p, 5270p, which our friend Fella has. But yeah, no, the black dial I believe is the most stylish. Jacob and Co. Jin, Jacob and Co. The Mount Everest. This is I think it's like a $900,000 watch or something. Like it's something crazy.
I honestly, I don't know how this guy swindled a bunch of celebrities and whatnot to buy his shit. But yeah, I mean, I think it's for a specific certain type of person.
Well, we think that kind of person is our friend Durstiefel. So I'm sure he'll be attending many events with his suit on, looking for a Jacob and Co. Mount Everest. But thank you, Durstiefel, for that. And I think we've caught up to the chat here, but Durstiefel says, I'm not a fan of Chapek or Recep Reshepi. I can't get past their names. Well, Recep Reshepi brand is called Akrivia, and I'll pull up the Akrivia Chronomet Contemporary number 2, which is the modern version of it. Let me pull up the Akrivia website here. Now, this, I hear a ding, and I believe, yeah, like it's like sending the fucking bat signal to Higgins here. When you talk Recep Reshepi, Higgins is immediately here.
Ooh, coincidence.
I don't think it's a coincidence. I think that was the bat signal.
Okay.
Hey, Higgy, we were talking about we're going to talk about the Recep Reshepi, the Chronomet Contemporary number 2. Obviously, Durstiefel can't get past the name, even though the branding is Akrivia. But yeah, like I think this is a really stylish piece, whether it's dial up or from the case back itself. Like to me, is one of the best pieces out there in the world today.
What was the question?
No, he just said he can't get past the name of it, right? And I think
Who said it? Rodent?
No, not the rodent. The rodent's a very respectful guy. He's our friend Durstiefel, who can't get past the name. But yeah, I said Durstiefel, if you can't get past the name, just flip the watch over and you'll get past it very quickly.
Hello, Jin. By the way, good evening from Germany.
Hey, Higgins.
Good to talk to you.
Yeah.
We were. I wanted to get your take on a piece. Raymond Zhao was just
But
talking.
Look, this comment is it is one-to-one the issue with Grand Seiko as well. Some people cannot get over the name or cannot get over the fact that the name is not well known. It's difficult. It's hard. Not sure if Akrivia is the more attractive name or if the real name of the person behind it is the better choice, or a made-up name just like Chapek. So yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, just to him, he says he thinks the watch is amazing. He just doesn't like the name.
Yeah.
He just can't have it on the watch. We were talking a minute before you hopped on, Higgins, about the Elie Chopard Full Strike Sapphire. Have you ever seen this piece before?
I've seen a report of it, but never seen it in real life. I'd rather speak about the Recep Reshepi.
Okay, yeah, no, we were just talking about how we hadn't seen this piece, but it does have the Poisson de Genève on the full sapphire case, as well as the movement. And I know you do like your Elie Chopard pieces as well. But yeah, I'll pull up the Recep Reshepi. Why don't you give us a bit of take on the Akrivia Contemporary Chronomet number 2?
So I see it as a big privilege. I've seen the watch in real life, unfortunately only from the dial side. That was on occasion of the GPHG exhibition, where they had all the watches on a display. They were mounted up on a kind of holder, so you couldn't flip it backwards. I totally love the appearance because it's so low profile. What is a little bit difficult, it's the same issue with Nomos, not that it's any comparison. The lugs are really long. We heard about those long lugs, and that it's an issue to some people. And Swiss and I agreed that the lugs are really slightly too long.
So that was
Would
that
it-
in the gold. Here's it in the platinum iteration. Obviously, you can see the lugs over here
Yeah.
as
There's a
well.
big gap.
Yeah.
The positive thing is that the lux really bent down, so it doesn't really stick up the watch or the lux. But you know, if the lux would be shorter, it would look like a Calatrava.
We got two Glashütte fans, two fans of the brands from Glashütte here, and so I was waiting for you to finish your dinner, Higgins, before I got into this. But the Swiss have come out with their answer to the data graph, and I'm going to pull this up, and you're going to tell us a bit about this piece, which
I've
is
seen it this afternoon. Yes.
the Peterman Beda reference 2941, and this is his answer to the data graph from the Swiss perspective.
So he
Um,
says.
So he says. I don't know if there's
58 mil case, by the way.
this is 38 mil case.
38 mil.
That is 30. Okay, that is a
30.
50. Like,
No,
geez.
58 would be a little crazier. So this is the dial itself. I like it. I like the dial. I think it's cool. Let's pull up the I gotta zoom in here. All right, look at this finishing here, Higgins. Like, do you think Lange is going to be able to compete with the Swiss here, or are you going to go with a German win for the data graph compared to this piece? Movement finishing. We're talking about.
It's a tough choice. When I see the gears with those very slim spokes, I must say mission accomplished. When I see those bridges and the overall movement construction, I think Lange still has an edge. I think our friend Patek Philippe put it correctly. The Lange data graph is a gorgeous mess of metal pieces that magically work together. To me, this movement looks a little bit more organized and not that three-dimensional. With the data graph, you have a kind of city that you can see with a lot of skyscrapers. So there is a lot of three-dimensionality, which I'm missing a little bit on that Petermann Beda. But we had the discussion before with Crador movement finishing versus the high-end Swiss guys. It's good that you have a choice and you can decide which one you like better.
Do you not think that the anglage on the Petermann Beda is better than the Lange itself, the data graph?
I would agree with that, but the main merit on Lange is not the amount of anglage or the deepness of anglage. They have a slight anglage, very discreet, but here the anglage on the Petermann Beda is certainly better. I think those gray parts are steel, which are black polished, but I'm not sure. I've only read that they did a lot of black polishing on this particular movement. What I would like to see is, this is a rattrapant. This is a split second.
Split second, yeah.
And the split second usually has a kind of clutch. And I can't see a clutch on that movement. So I'm not sure if the clutch is hidden. I can see a column wheel, but I can't see the clutch. And there should be a clutch in the center because it is a split big second hand.
You're going to say, Jen?
No, I can't. I have a very hard time preferring this over Datograph. It's like I'm not sure how I feel about the very different size jewels in the movement, and also I agree with Higgins that I think the strength of Lange's movements is that is really the signature elements, the German silver, the glasuda striping, the engraved balance cock, the and the depth. I feel that I'm not sure that this is how they do it, but I suspect that Lange designs their movements not only to be functional, but so that the geometry is aesthetically pleasing and sort of consistent with the brand signature. And I think that if you're attracted to that type of aesthetic, I think it's very hard to prefer something like this. This may look more organized to some, but I feel like this is a watch that was created to a movement that was created to like achieve a certain level of performance or meet certain technical specifications without being designed to be like a geometrically beautiful movement in and of itself.
So Der Stiefel says AP makes some of the cases for Lange. Is this true, Jonathan?
Not that I'm aware of, but you know that they have connections to Renault Epapi, which is now AP. So I would never say never. I know that Anthony De Haas, he came from Renault Epapi. He still has his connections, so possible, yes. Not that I'm aware of.
This crown is interesting, eh? Like it's little.
It's a mono pusher.
Yeah, it is mono pusher. It's an interesting design. I actually look for my take of this watch is I actually really do like it. I think it works. I think it's like it, and I can see the appeal of the data graph. I mean, I'll pull up the data graphs movement again. It's considered one of the best, if not the best, out there. But I think Peterman Beda is he's got a bit of a hit on his hands. So we've got someone else join us. We've got our friend the General Saad. How you doing?
Hello to my best buddies, Mr. Patek Philippe, Rodent 300, and Higgins, the greatest in the world.
Thank you very much, Saad.
Hey, Saad.
How are you? How are you, Higgins? How is your watch going?
Oh, very good.
One thing that I will add on the data graph, why the data graph movement or Lange movements in general are so nice, is the blued screws and the screwed in gold chatons. I think that really elevates the movement, the blued screws, over this.
We've got our general here, so I'm going to take a bit of a pivot from German watches versus Swiss watches, and we're going to pull up a watch that you guys were talking about the other day, the Tridor, Saad, the Tridor. And
Yes.
check this style out of the Tridor. What do you guys think?
I think the dial on this is aftermarket. I believe I'm not 100% sure, but it looks aftermarket 100%. Okay, it's it would be aftermarket. They did not produce this kind of indices back in the day, and you can see that the hands are not as wide as the indices. That is clear. Okay, so this was actually more expensive than the solid gold day date, the yellow gold. However, it was a failed model. Nobody wanted to buy it. Even till this date, it's not a good seller.
Mike Ditka wearing a Tridor on the sidelines for the Chicago Bears. This is for you, Curly. Mike Ditka wearing the Tridor. Got a couple ads here from a friend. So a friend of the channel, Jake's Rolex World, RolexMagazine.com. He was on the channel actually a few weeks ago with Archie, but obviously wealth of knowledge here for Rolex fans. So Saad, look, we talked about this that well, I didn't know that there was a two-tone day date created, and you were able to find two instances of a two-tone day date. Very rare. Obviously a special order by customers.
Two-tone, you mean steel and gold?
No, it was a gold day date. Actually, you know what, Ten? Few days back, I found my old catalogs of the 90s, and there I found that two-tone to be on catalog. So it was not even an off-catalog model.
Oh,
I'll
nice.
share with you that photograph with you
Yeah, sure.
maybe tonight
Yeah,
or tomorrow.
okay.
So the thing is, I think it was not a good seller. Again, day dates were known for their, single tone only. But uh, I never thought that it was an on catalog kind of a thing till I saw it and showed to Archie actually.
Yeah, Higgins, they did have a two-tone day date. I never knew about it. I was looking for one, and then Saad had found a couple of instances of them. We thought there was only like one or two around in the world, but if it was on catalog, there's probably more. Um, but that's probably why the Tridor had, in and of itself, had problems because, if you're buying, what does this watch look like when you see it from far away? It looks like a
Yeah,
two-tone date just, right? Like,
and those three different tones in the bracelet were barely visible when you saw the watch in real life.
hmm
I saw the watch. I handled it many times, and you had to look really close to see that those are three different gold colors.
So the two tones that you found. So Jay Wright's asking, was there ever a two tone white and rose gold? I don't know if they're the ones you found were white and yellow.
It was white and yellow. The case was made from white gold, and the central links were yellow gold. So it looked, and it had Jubilee bracelet. That must be mentioned that it was a Jubilee
Mm.
bracelet, not a president bracelet.
Not a president.
So yeah, I'll send you photographs of that catalog. But I have sent you photograph of the Tridor that one of my friend had, and I got to try it. Uh,
Let
you
me
can see how beautifully it is made. It is a.
yeah, let me just make sure I don't dox anybody here. So share this tab. And yeah, we can see it here. Let me just make sure I don't dox anybody on this piece. So
We can see your WhatsApp now.
yeah, I'm just
Okay.
removing that. It's just because I got someone else joining the screen here. So we got the professor.
Hello, Professor Riori.
Buongiorno.
How's it going, professor?
How you doing, assistant professor?
Good, good. We're talking Pateks and Rolexes and all the fun stuff. We're showing. Yeah,
Excellent.
sorry, my WhatsApp's just bugging out right now, so I'm not going to share my WhatsApp. But I'll
Okay.
share. I will share another screen if I can bring this up. Let's add this one here. We're going to go back to just regular tabs here. So, yeah, so we're talking Rolex day dates, Tridors. Saad himself has had a Tridor or seen a Tridor, and he's enjoyed it. The one you had up here. You know what? Maybe I can see if I can get this working again here. Let me share this tab, and I'll bring this up. So Saad, why don't you talk to us about this Tridor
Okay.
that we have up here?
This was the 18239B. The Tridor is B reference number. So it was a normal Tridor, but it had aftermarket, diamonds on the lugs, and also the bezel was aftermarket as well. However, the dial was factory. Rest of the watch was factory. So you can see the difference between a Tridor's dial and a normal day date yellow gold's dial is that the setting on the diamonds on Tridors are mostly white gold. It is matched with the hands, and the hands are matched with the case of the material, the white gold. So you can differentiate between a Tridor dial and a normal champagne dial like that. A normal champagne dial will have these settings, where the diamonds are fitted to be yellow gold instead of white gold, unless you have the very 80s and early 90s model where you had the option of getting white gold setting also.
Beautiful. And you said this was, where did you come across this piece? You said it was a friend of yours that had it. Like,
Tan, in Pakistan, you can get these weird kind of watches a lot. You
hmm,
can find octopus. You can find some comics, submariners or whatever it is. So, and some people know about it, some people don't. So you can find weird stuff here. Yeah.
I want to show you guys another weird piece side here. So this is the Yacht Master prototype. What do you guys think of the Yacht Master prototype? What does it look? Does this look like a Yacht Master to you guys?
It looks like a Daytona.
A Daytona, yeah. So I also from Jake's Rolex blog, really ultra rare prototype Rolex Yacht Master chronograph. Watch was made in 1965 and measures 39.5 millimeters. Is the current size is the size of a current Daytona. It's unusual because the Daytona models at the time were smaller. Yeah, no, just a pretty. This is the cool thing about Rolex. I think a lot of people miss is just the depth of how how deep their catalog goes back in time, and being able to find a lot of these rare pieces is just really it's something I find very interesting and very cool. Would you guys buy this as a Daytona? Higgins, is this something that appeals to you? Do you like this, or is this something you wouldn't be interested in?
I can see that it's a very unusual watch, so it's going to be bloody rare. So if I see that at an Italian flea market dealer and he asks 20,000, I would buy it, not because I like it, because I know that it's pretty rare. Difficult question to reply. In my opinion, it's a mess, and I understand that Rolex didn't pull the trigger on that.
Well, it says that this prototype, Professor, was owned by Eric Clapton. And it's just interesting. They call it the Yacht Master. Pretty interesting name that they would use for this.
They are using those 5-minute intervals for the starting for competitive races.
Yes, although of course it is interesting that it's not an oyster. Yet
it's a rivet style, the old rivet style bracelet.
Yeah. And no, I mean it's not an oyster as in the case.
Okay.
So it's not waterproof. Well, it is kinda sort of waterproof, but not designed to be. Yet it was designed to be a yacht racing watch. But the Hoyer Skipper was not a waterproof case either.
I'm gonna pull up a prototype here as well from Jake's Rolex blog. Rolex Submariner prototype sells for more than 600,000. Geneva Spring Auction, sold at Christie's. It's a 1680 prototype, and so the 1680 was the first iteration of the Date Submariner. This is zoomed in a bit, but you guys can kind of see it here. What it looks like. What does this look? Does this look more like a Yacht Master to you guys than the other one? Like, I don't know.
Yes, well, the bezel does, but I fucking love this Bark bracelet, Bark President bracelet, the steel bezel with the this is way better than any normal sub ever made, in my opinion.
Okay.
Anybody a fan of this nipple dial?
I totally disagree respectfully with Jin.
What do you hate about it? What do you hate about it? What do you hate about it, Higgins?
Almost everything. I'm not a fan of the bark bracelets.
Come on, Higgins.
I don't see the point of a bark. Why would you? Why would you want a bracelet?
I'll tell you why. I'll explain to you why. I'll explain to you why. Well, look, the bark again, right? He's talking about bark being part of the president, right? So you're talking about luxury. So at a time prior to the 1680, the Submariner was arguably a tool watch, right? No date. And it was, purpose was to be a diver's watch. Now they come out with the 1680 with the date, which is kind of the transformation of the Submariner moving into becoming a luxury piece. I believe the first solid gold Submariner was in this group, in the 1680 group. And so, you're talking about a time where Rolex is saying, hey, we're going to transition this tool watch to become a luxury good. We're going to add a date to it. So I understand why they're looking at it this way in the prototype. And that's why I find it fascinating. But I get it. I understand you don't like the aesthetic of the bark. But
Dan, do you remember the 1675 with President bracelet? That was also a rare option back in the day.
1675 President
Yeah.
And I think you're overthinking things. Rolex were having that tool watch. They knew they could sell a golden one, and they tried to make it a little bit different. Not sure if that was part of a strategic move to move the entire sports or professional line more to luxury.
Yeah. What do you think about this, Higgins?
Better, but I'm a big fan of the Oyster bracelets. So if you give me the choice, this one or the same watch with an Oyster bracelet, I would go Oyster.
Come on, Higgy, look at this.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
Professor, talk some
that's who I
sense
am.
into our German friend, Professor. What do you think?
Professor, show him some love, these president bracelets.
It's interesting what you're saying, because a lot of the things that we all love today, they 30, 40 years ago were hated.
Of course.
So, today we tend to dislike the Milgauss. 20, 30 years from now, when we're all half dead, our kids will be loving it. And how come you didn't discover? And so it's kind of the aftermath, in a kind of a, reverting back to the old. We all tend to like what we cannot have access to, and we tend to commiserate and orientalize and romanticize the past. This is ostensibly a beautiful watch. I mean, no doubt. Oyster or not, I was watching the other day, what's his name, Magnum PI, and I tend to believe that on a Pepsi, an Oyster is much more nicer than the girlish Jubilee that they have now. Jubilee is not for a professional watch. It should be kept for Datejust. It should be kept for the steel. But they're playing with different feelings, and they want to include everybody. They want to include men, women, confused men, confused women, and all of that. And so they want to sell to a wider group. So they throw in every salad you want into the mix. They put a bit of tomato. Now they put potato. I mean, if you look at the announcements, not announcements, but you can clearly see from the video guys that they released earlier, Rolex, more or less the 6 or 7 watches that they're going to announce.
Absolutely. And you brought up the Milgauss here, and I'm going to end the show in about 10 minutes because I've been going for almost 2 hours now, guys. But, the professor brings up the Milgauss, and for me, this is my favorite Milgauss, the OG 6541 Milgauss. Do you Rolex fans on the panel here prefer the new Milgauss like the Z Blue, or would you take something like this, the OG one?
How much is this one, Tanzil? How much is this retailing?
I don't know. I can pull up the Antiquorum. So this one, this Milgauss here sold for 221,000 euro.
Excellent. They can keep it and make salad.
They can keep it.
They can keep this watch, make salad, go on a trip to Alaska, come back, have 6 women, and then get a car, and then still have money left over. So whoever buys this watch is a big loser.
Yeah, look, these are vintage watches. I'm not talking necessarily on the price. I'm talking about really the design.
And they are rare. In all the years that I've been selling Rolex, I never had a request for a Milgauss. We never had one on stock. It was in the catalog. But we never
I
had
agree
one
with
on
you,
stock.
Higgins. Exactly. Nobody in my days also know. Yeah, when I asked for an old Milgauss of the 60s, they looked at me once and they said, "Are you from the moon? Are you from Mars? Who are you? We don't care about this watch." And it's interesting how we go back to, the old models. Today, a friend of mine was showing me he acquired a 62, 63. I said, "How much did you pay for this beauty?" He said, "Oh, I paid 75,000 pounds." I said, "Wow, great. Give me 75, I'll bring you 75,000 women."
Yeah, you know,
Well, $1 a woman.
now that's
That's right. To investigate business practices that you're doing.
Well,
The professor is flooding the market. Yes.
he's definitely flying the market. But look, that's the truth, though, Professor. Is all the stuff that everyone talks about collectability, and I'm going to give Higgins shit for keeping stickers on his Daytona. Like, this is a popular piece today, and all these
Higgins, how many Daytonas you have?
He's got
Only
one.
one.
He's got one full sticker.
He
thinks it's going to be the
new
next
one or the old one?
A new one, a Panda.
Ah, okay. Now they will announce they have the new one, so you guys are going to be looking. You're going to be crying on the price.
Wait and see. Wait and see. First of all, that is not really done. Secondly, I remember when the new automatic Daytona was introduced, everybody thought that the old manual one would be worthless. Well, 2 or 3 years later, people realized how beautiful the old one was.
Okay, Higgins, let's play a game. Let's play a game. If you were told that you had to gift one of your a watch to every panelist here of your collection for whatever reason, you were asked to gift it, right?
Mhm.
And which watch would you gift of your collection to which panelist here?
Excellent question.
Higgins has got a good collection. He's got a Rolex.
Please, we need to include Mr. GMT on this. Please give
let's add Mr. GMT as well.
There is no way that
no
can
way. There's
escape
no.
that question without being embarrassed and being
No, of course
thrown
not.
mud
Of
on.
course you can. No, you can. If because all these panelists have a lot of respect for you. So if you were to say, "Hey, I had to gift,"
absolutely,
you have to gift your collection
absolutely.
away to one of us, or to each of us. Each you have to give a watch. Which watch would you pick for which panelist?
Okay, so the easiest, and no disrespect to Jin, I've been talking to Jin now, I think 2 or 3 times, and most of the time I've been talking, so I apologize for that. But I don't know Jin very much in person. I only seen him on ArchieLuxury, so I'll give him my Glashütte CQ because I know that he likes Glashütte, and this is a smaller watch, so I hope that he's gonna enjoy it. With Utan, I will give you the world timer because you know the story, and I'm still slightly worried that the genesis of this particular watch is getting lost when I'm gone or when I'm losing my mind.
That's the one I wanted. I was like, Higgins better give me the world timer.
Okay.
Cool.
You have it. So with the professor. The professor, he's an outspoken Lange guy. I'm not sure if he likes my Lange one Moonface more or my perpetual calendar.
Whichever
he didn't react, so he'll get the Lange one Moonface, and General Saad will get the perpetual calendar.
And then we'll exchange it. I'll go to Pakistan and he'll give it to me.
Okay, but now you got to pick one for Mr. GMT. What are you going to gift to Mr. GMT?
Mr. GMT.
Porsche design.
I have a fully stickered Rolex Kermit in my collection, fully stickered. So I would remove the crown guards and gift it to him.
Yes, the butchered Kermit. That's a good.
Yeah. So I'm gonna modify another one and give him the one without.
That's not embarrassing, John. These are all good choices.
And I'll keep the stickers on just to drive him even more mad.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. The world timer would be definitely one that I would tell a lot of stories about. Obviously, knowing the stories of the city ring in the world timers is very important. And I appreciate that. But with that, guys, our friend Dis is streaming right now. So I do ask all those that are watching, if you guys want to hop over to the Dis channel, check his stream out. I'm going to head over there right now. I've been streaming for about 2 hours. ArchieLuxury is going to be on in about 2.5 hours. I wanted to thank everybody who hopped on the panel, Higgins, Professor, Saad, Jin, and everybody in the chat for hopping on, talking watches today. And I will see you guys next time.